Good evening. I am Selwyn Collins, your host of CWS Conversations with Selwyn. Thank you for joining us. And those of you who are joining us for the first time, a very special thank you. At CWS, our goal is to have conversations with people and their journeys and how are they using their gifts and talents to help others? How are they contributing in a positive way to humanity? I say this and I don't take this lightly because I believe that everyone has a story to tell. Everyone has some contribution to make to humanity, regardless of what walk of life. I'm not only looking for people's successes, I'm especially attuned to their challenges and how they overcome their challenges. Because I think that how we handle our challenges, not how many times we fell or we fall, but how often we get up and why we got up. I think those are the attributes that really speak to who we are as a person, really speak to the strength of your character, how often you get up, and how you handle failure. And I invite people here every week to have these conversations, to inform and enlighten our audience, but more importantly, to speak to our youth. And I say this every week, but I can't claim that I say this enough. That imagine a young person anywhere in the world listening to you, talking about your journey, talking about your success, but hearing how you might have overcome a challenge. And imagine that young person one day, sometime in the distant future, becoming the next head of state. And that is possible. Becoming the first female prime minister or president of a country. Becoming someone who's instrumental in stopping a genocide. Becoming an oncologist, a geneticist, we don't know. What I admire especially about this aspect of our humanity, the ability to give beyond ourselves and to give without expectations, to give unconditionally, is to not know the extent of your gift, to not wanting or needing to be around to see the extent of your gift. And I usually use a sociological analogy of leaders, freedom fighters, people who, and we are in the era where there were many. We have witnessed to many, Nelson Mandela, and, Martin Luther King. These are people who have fought for social change, fought against social injustice. Many of them were never around to see the changes. And I always admire those who are willing to go into the trenches, willing to sacrifice, make great sacrifice. And the greatest sacrifice is to give one's life for the benefit of others. So I say all this to say that I'm always eager to have a conversation with someone who is doing extraordinary things from whatever walk of life, because I believe that each story can teach someone. Tonight, my guest is Allison Skeete, who I'll introduce to you after the break. She's a daughter of our soil. She's from Guyana. And I'm looking forward to this conversation. It has been some time in the making, and I'm so happy that and grateful that she made it through this cold weather, So I'll take a short break, and then I'll introduce you to Allison Skeete. We are back. Those of you joining us for the first time, I'm Selwyn Collins of CWS Conversations with Selwyn. The lovely young lady next to me is Mrs. Allison Skeete. Allison, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having me, and a very happy new year to you.
Oh, same to you. Same to you, and thanks for coming. Just a quick note. Those who are joining us for the first time, we transmit in three frequencies. There is high def, standard def, and regular or lower definition, I think they call it. And so, if you are in a country in the Caribbean parts of Guyana where your internet connection is not that fast or so on, roll the mouse over the player and select the lower number. I think it's 350. So that said, let's get on. Allison, I want to start with your bio.
Okay.
Born in Georgetown, Guyana, and migrated to the US in 1977. Worked for Con Edison for more than 25 years. Allison attended Long Island University to pursue her bachelor's degree in journalism and communication arts. She also earned her certification as an adult education instructor from NYSCK College and continues whetting her learning appetite by accumulating extensive continuing education credits to support her goal of her master's and further accreditation in business and organizational leadership. She started a business that provides business and media related services to the small and community nonprofits. Allison provides a vital community service sharing college and scholarship information, some on other youth jobs and opportunity news, community news and happenings, and has been a dedicated mentor for more than 25 years to students at elementary, high school, and college, many of whom she maintains some contact with. She has been dubbed the community collaborator by Professor Sam Tate. Allison has worked with the Brooklyn Tabernacles Adult GED program and with the NYU Literacy program as an editor in the production of their student literary magazine. She has been a columnist writing about the energy industry and its effects on the Caribbean diaspora for Caribbean Impact newspaper, and she often writes feature articles which have been published in Caribbean Life and at www.newsamericanow.com, formerly heartbeatnews.com, and the Network Journal. She's been an officer and board member of the American Association of Blacks in Energy, a member of the National Association of Black Journalists, etc., etc. Allison, I will get right into it.
Okay.
What is it about you that I would say? What is it about you, and what do you do that earned you the title community collaborator from Professor Sam Tate?
I've known Sam for many, many years. Sam has his own internship program. He's a professor of communication arts at Kingsborough College, own internship program that is featured on BCAT Cable. He uses a number of his students to give them the opportunity of working in the field, and he reaches out from time to time looking for experiences, people, ideas, and topics to showcase with the students and to teach them the craft of communications. So he often reaches out to me, and in my interactions, living and working in New York as long as I have, I've often been able to give him a name or information or something that is directly what he's looking for. So I believe it was in like 2005 or somewhere that far back that he says, you're my community collaborator. Anytime I need to know something or I need a resource, I come to you, and you've always come through for me.
Excuse me, Alison. I'll ask you one thing. Could you pull that mic stand closer to you, please? Much closer. All right, good.
Okay.
I want the whole world to hear you. Being born in Guyana and having lived there for many years before migrating to the U.S., can you tell us what it was like growing up in Guyana?
That takes me to the visual. Because in leaving Guyana, I was a teenager, and I kind of resented it. I didn't resent my parents, but I resented leaving what I knew, leaving my friends, leaving the relationships, just beginning to know myself as a teen. Um, Asking that question takes me back to North Road, takes me back to the Botanic Gardens, takes me back to the zoo, takes me back to kite flying, Easter Sunday, takes me back to Brickdam Cathedral, takes me back to St. Mary's, takes me back to South Georgetown, takes me back to everything that is the essence of who I am today. My grandmother and my mom, trying on my mom's clothes and thinking I'll never be as big or pretty as my mom. Thinking about my grandmother teaching me how to cook. To this day, I cannot cook for less than 5, 6 people.
Wow.
It's a difficult thing to cook for just my husband and myself now that we're empty nesters. But the memories, the things I learned, they're the essence of who I am. The integrity I established comes from where I was born, how I was raised, the community, the elders, the respect, the culture, the being one among each other. That is how I would describe what Guyana was to me and still is. When I left with a determination never to forget where I was from because I really was not looking forward to the unknown.
Well, let me ask you this. Can you give us a glimpse then into the life of the 9-year-old Allison? What was she like? And who did she become at 24? 3 parts. And who is she evolving into?
The 9-year-old Allison knew by then she wanted to be a journalist. My mom's eldest brother, he fascinated me writing editorials that were featured in the Chronicle. And I was fascinated because he never spoke to me as a child. He always spoke to me as a teacher and as a student with understanding. And I was fascinated to see the things he would talk about appear in the paper when he wrote about them. So at 9 years old, I knew I was fascinated by that. I wanted to get into that. At 10 years old, I said, I'm going to study journalism. And I did go on to do that. At 24, I was beginning a second work career. And I was now working in an area I never had a concept of where communications could be used. That's working in Con Edison. I work in the utility industry, but I never had a concept of how communications could be used in the field because it wasn't something that I was aware of. It wasn't something that we studied. It wasn't something that was at that time tied in part of the liberal arts as much as it is today. And I was excited because I was learning new things. That's when I first became aware a country like Guyana has such a vast opportunity in the utility industry with hydropower. The land of many waters came to mean something different for me at 24. Who I'm evolving into now is a woman on the verge of retirement and pursuing my own personal business with more of a zest and a zeal than I could have a few years ago.
How does it feel, sort of taking that virtual journey from childhood all the way to who you are now and you are becoming?
It's intriguing. It's not something I've done before. It gives me pause for thought.
You said so many things about what Guyana meant to you that I feel it's almost unfair to ask you this next question, but I am going to ask you because it always evoke interesting answers. What do you love most about being Guyanese and being in Guyana whenever you visit?
The feeling that this is where I'm from. This is my earth. The things that were instilled in me at the time, you never really realize. The concept of youth is wasted on the young is so true because the clarity that I can understand things that I heard or I learned growing up in Guyana is so vast and expansive now that it makes a very big difference in who I'm becoming more and more.
What is the fondest memory you have of your parents as a child?
My dad was merchant marine,
Uh,
so he was always traveling. And one of the fondest memories I can think of right now, I can't really say everything about it. I would embarrass my dad, my sister, but was having him home and just having him playing with us, romping with us, which was a rarity. He was always traveling, and remembering exactly what took place and what happened, and having my mom just laughing and smiling. That's one of the best memories. Or memories when his ship would come in, but they were just passing through. They weren't allowed offshore, but he would have someone bring some kind of booty from the ship for us. You get a knock on the side window, 3 a.m. in the morning. Mrs. Skeete, I have something your husband sent, and we wake up the next morning and there's a box, there's ice apples,
right.
there's chocolates, there's those are memories with my parents that I remember and I enjoy. And
In a way, I'm glad you said that, because what comes to mind is your delight with those with surprises, or those kinds of surprises.
yes.
So I'm glad, and because, as you know, this format, none of the guests gets questions before, so
Yes.
it's quite kind of a surprise here tonight. What I'm going to ask you, you have no idea what I'm going to ask. So I'm glad you said that. I feel less guilty now.
Oh, that's ominous.
Ah, you can handle it. This is your thing. Talking about mom, what story about you as a child does she always tell about you?
I was a tomboy.
Hmm.
I was very athletic, and she, she never expected her tomboy to be such a lady today, in that my home is representative of someone who spent time in fashion books, in fashion stores, in decorating, and I was quite the opposite growing up.
Really?
Yes, or she talks about me being the one that does the things she does as far as the cooking. She tells my sisters and I, when she's gone, I'm the only one that makes certain foods or bakes certain things. My sisters may not be inclined to do it, but for me, it's a part of what I determined to maintain when I left Guyana. You know, a few one of the things I enjoy doing with her is baking black cake at Christmas. And my sisters enjoy it, but they don't do it.
Hmm.
It's just, I'm the one that's interested in things like that. So those are the things that she would say about me.
While we are still deep in your timeline, um, I'm going to ask a question that will sort of give credence to what we're going to talk about later on in terms of mentorship and your passion for, our thirst, I should say, for knowledge. Um, let's talk about school and high school, just a little bit. Did you enjoy school as a child, or I mean, as a child, a teenager, and what was your favorite subject?
Absolutely. I am one of those kids you hated because I loved school. Every moment I could be in school, I stayed in school. I liked anything that had to do with expanding something that I didn't know, any kind of horizons. I did not enjoy sciences. I enjoyed biology. Chemistry and physics I did because I had to. But honestly, I never found myself cramming to get a good grade. I loved school. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed school in Guyana. I enjoyed school here. School here was an escape for me because it prevented me from building more of a resentment at the change from one environment into the next as a teenager.
And why are you so intellectually curious? And where did this thirst for knowledge come from? I'm not where, but when did this all begin, I should say?
I think it's always been there. I remember my mom saying, I have a passion for Latin cultures. And I remember my mom saying I would change the radio stations to the Venezuelan stations and I would sit and listen, pantomime, dance to the music, things like that. Ironically, today, I'm often mistaken for being Hispanic, typically Dominican. I can ride a bus, I can ride a train, and elderly Hispanic people will speak to me, asking me questions, asking me directions. Thank goodness I can speak a little of the language enough to respond to them without having to worry. Um, it's something that I really enjoyed and something that comes from an early age. I remember being curious. Books are something I've always been curious about. When my mom joined my dad here, one of the things I did to not face her being gone, I went to the library every Friday after school. And I stayed until it closed every Friday. I've always been interested. I immersed myself in history, I immersed myself in literature. It just took me to a different place, and I still enjoy doing that.
Outside your parents, who would you say has had the greatest influence on your life? If you're at liberty to mention.
My uncle, my mom's brother, he's been a big influence. He's been an extremely emphatic and impacting influence on several people. He's been a teacher for more than 40, 50 years. He's retired, but he still tutors. I've encountered some of his students even on Facebook. Just seeing them brag about him, talk about him, and praise him. I'm like, wait, you're talking about my uncle. You know, Mr. Finance, he taught French. He taught at Chatham. He taught at Tutorial. He's taught all over. He's even graded papers for the universities here, and a number of his students really count him as a big influence. So he's one of my big influences. He's the one that got me interested in journalism. And I have a few other people that have been very sort of mentors to me, I would say. A high school teacher here, Ms. Jones, Beverly Jones. You know, she helped me with making that transition and forced me to accept you are here. You have to make the best of it. You don't lose yourself, you enhance yourself. You know, she was one of those people in college. It was Professor Vincent Wright. He was the dean of one of the schools where I attended university. And he spoke to me and made an impact for me to understand diversity. He was a black professor married to a white woman, and he understood some of my discomfort. And he spent time to work with me, talk with me, and to guide me through that. You know, outside of that, there have been a few more people as the years have gone by. You know, and even some of my students that I've mentored have been helpful to me in that.
I'm beginning to get a glimpse into where this whole thing about mentoring comes from. But this is not about me. I'm going to let you tell your story. Is it fair to ask you who or what pushed you into mentoring?
I think it's something innate, and I think it has to do with me always considering being a teacher. You know, I actually applied to be a teacher when I did graduate from college. That did not fall into place. And I think I wanted to share a lot of what I knew. I just saw so much of opportunity in learning. And I looked around me and I didn't see the same. One of the things that impacted me in that area, when I came here, I went to school here. In graduating high school here, a neighbor said to my parents, "You must be so proud. Your daughter's achieved so much, and the kids on the block who've been here didn't even do half or consider doing as much in high school." And I think at that moment I said, that's really something I've seen. I didn't see the same importance that education made to me on the average student around me. I just wanted to share that.
Something struck a chord in me when you were chronicling the people who've had an influence in your life. And you mentioned, I think it was Beverly
Jones.
Jones.
Miss Jones.
Right. And who said to you, "You're here. Accept it. It's about accepting and moving on." How much of that have you borrowed in your mentorship or mentoring of young people? How many have you ever found yourself using the same principle to help someone, or help a mentee get out of a particular situation?
Ironically, I have never thought of it that way before, but as you said that, I think about one of my most successful mentees, Keela Johnson.
Keela, yes. Yeah.
You've met Keela.
I met Keela.
She came into the program I was mentoring totally unprepared or unaware of what she was getting into, but knowing she wanted to do something different. She had ideas, but she didn't have the confidence in herself to push her ideas. And she would say something to me almost timidly. And I did find myself saying, "No, do this, do that." And it worked for her. She had a very successful mentorship working with WBAI and getting their Facebook page and social media sites off the ground, up and running. It wasn't with even much of an effort, but I saw myself in her, and I was able to use that. I would never have looked at it that way until you just pointed it out.
And why is mentoring? I know you mentor different adults and young adults. Why is it so important to you, especially young people?
We're losing so much of the value of education and knowledge and history. If we want to mentor, we don't just have to mentor in the present. We have to mentor from the past also. Many people have said it time and time again. If you don't know where you're from, you don't know where you're going. Mentorship is not just, let's sit for a few hours or a few minutes in an office, let's talk, shoot me an email. No, I believe in hands-on mentoring. I believe in taking the bull by the horns and ingraining this person into my life and me into theirs. I even have my husband involved with that. You've met Keela. My husband's met Keela. She knows us, and we worked with her. We did so much with her. She understood this was not just about, I'm just here for 10 weeks. It's more than that. You have to make the point. There's so many of our young people who have no direction today because their lives are led by social media. It's led by things that are not from within the household, because the household is caught up in maintaining itself and making sure that you're surviving.
On that note, let's take a break.
Said, "Suffer the little children to come unto me." Every day, more than 30,000 children around the world die of preventable diseases. More than 300,000 children are being used in war as child soldiers. Lord have mercy. A child should be loved. A child should be held. A child should be clean. A child shouldn't smell. A child shouldn't go to bed.
back with the lovely Allison Skeete. Allison, um, what is most rewarding about mentoring to you?
Seeing the mentees get it, seeing them succeed, and seeing them want to do the same in return for others. Working with Keela, today she's a success story. She has started her own not-for-profit business. She's had opportunities to work in so many different areas which she never anticipated. And I am really proud of her success, and I'm proud to see that her work today is focused on youth. Her not for profit is focused on helping to teach our young people to remain true to themselves, to remain virgins until they're married. She's teaching them self respect, self value. This is a young woman, 22, 23 years old, and she's working with teenagers. So for me, that is such a satisfying feeling to know that the difference I made to her has pushed her to make a difference in so many more.
Do you have a favorite quote you love to use personally, but you also enjoy sharing with your mentees?
I do. I also have this quote tagged on my emails. It's a quote by Thomas Wolfe that says, "The only real possession you'll ever have is your character. No matter who you are, your character speaks true to you. And first impressions die hard, and your character follows those first impressions. Without that, who are you?"
Wow. Wow, I like that. How do you see your role as a community collaborator?
Info sharing, exposure, knowledge. I've had the opportunity to introduce many students to different types of scholarships available when they're going off to school. I've had the opportunity to have some of them honored for some of their own community work and services. These are not young people who solicit my help or who solicit for me to note what they've done or recommend them. Based on my working with them, based on my reading or seeing their resume, or based on things other people may say, I may have an opportunity to make sure they have some exposure that would be beneficial to them. So in my community service, it's some of what I do. I've done that with Family Renaissance. I've done that with the Caribbean American Business Association of New Jersey. I've done that with a number of the organizations I've been involved with, specifically because I want them to understand we are seeing you when you are doing these things. We are taking note, and that little boost makes a big difference in if they go forward to be even more productive and come back and do the same for those behind them.
As a journalist, what are your thoughts? And I'm just going to shift a little bit here. What are your thoughts on our new mayor and his initiative to provide affordable pre-K to
I like his idea, and I think it's coming from his personal experience. I think he has a vantage point of the diversity in his own life, and I think that stem of that diversity makes a world of a difference on where our children get the start. We've lost that here in our city. We've lost that. We've lost the arts. We've lost things that make our children intuitively and innately reach out and explore. And I think that's a great way to bring it back, starting with this, because from pre-K, children do as they see before they do as they're told. So it's really opening the doors for them at an early age. In Guyana, we started school 3 years old. By the time we were 5, we knew our ABCs, we knew our names, we could spell count why not do it again? It makes a big difference, and it will also help close that gap in where our children are as compared to other well-versed countries.
And what, in your opinion, can New Yorkers expect from this new administration?
I'm not a politician.
I know you're not a politician, but you're right.
And you're
And
taking advantage of of knowing me inside. Okay. I think they can expect some realistic views and changes, again, based on the fact of his diversity in his lifestyle. I think there's going to be a bit more understanding because New York is a diverse community, and it's even more so now, whether it be racially, whether it be culturally, or otherwise. I think he has the capability of seeing that and using that advantage to enhance and develop an even better New York.
In the chat room, Karen, sorry, asked, did you miss home when you first arrived?
Oh, yes, I did. I left 80 something degree weather and landed here to 32 degrees and snow. The first day I was here.
Sorry.
Definitely I missed it. I missed the sun. I miss the freedom walking around. I just missed the atmosphere and environment that was a much more relaxed lifestyle.
And Denise asked how often do you mentor?
I mentor annually. It's an ongoing thing. There are different programs annually. In the summertime, I do a 10-week program that's focused on college students with the Arts and Business Cultural Council of New York. And throughout the year, the school year, I am doing the pen pal mentoring with students in an elementary school in the Bronx who are English as second language students. And there's also rotating mentoring programs that I'm involved with year round that are also sponsored by the company. This is not something I do once in a while. I more often than not have a mentee most of the times throughout the year.
Wow. So, and I love asking you these journalism questions, because you answer them so well. What what has been your greatest achievement or more meaningful moment as a journalist?
I would have to say it's having the last article that I wrote on the second inauguration of President Obama. I wrote articles for News America, which is Felicia Prasad's website, from his first inauguration that were picked up and published and shared. She did that again for me. She also is the reason I was able to officially participate with the media at this inauguration. She featured my work, and the Network Journal picked up one of the articles. And for me, that has to be one of the highlights that I will always remember. When I said at 10 I wanted to be a journalist, I never anticipated that I would be writing about the inauguration of the first black president of the United States and having that published in a venue that's internationally seen, read, picked up, and had me receiving notes of congratulations from all over the world, and having my parents, now in their retirement age, sit back and think, we never had a concept of this. My parents will tell you they're simple people. To have daughters who have achieved, my parents are extremely proud. My sister Dawn has been a press secretary for former Mayor Bloomberg. She's been an assistant vice president in Medgar Evers College. We have done things my parents never conceptualized. And for us, just to know that they are proud, just that look, just that feeling, just my daughters, that makes it all worthwhile.
Moving, very moving what you just said, and I'm almost tempted to ask you to connect that to mentoring some young person, and how would you how would you use that understand that experience, that feeling? How would you use that as a message?
I'd have to think about that, but something came to mind when you said that. I know she's probably going to be embarrassed, but I have to mention Keela again. Mentoring her was different. And what I just expressed about my parents, I had the opportunity to be on the receiving end of that from her parents. Her mother specifically expressed her thanks for me being her mentor because her parents and her sisters are in fields that are not within the communications or social media venue. And her mom said, we had no idea how to help her. We knew she wanted to do this. We sent her off to this with a prayer, and God answered it. Thank you. She's much more grounded and she knows what she wants to do now. So that's the only way I can think to express how I would do that in mentoring, because I've had a parent come and say to me, thank you. You kind of eased our difficulties. You made this easier for us. They're very proud of what she's achieved right now.
As a journalist and as a mentor, um, do you believe journalism appeals to enough young black youth? And are they entering the field as much as you think they should?
No, I don't think it appeals as much as it used to. We live in a technological age where everything is right there all the time. News is readily available. We are fighting to maintain some of the integrity that journalism represented at a time when we got into that field. It's getting harder and harder. The lack of programs available, the lack of opportunities, the environments that some of our students are living in, just attending schools that don't have as much of the facilities or the ability and opportunities, is becoming more and more rare. And it's harder. It's harder now even to choose what you want to do, because working for corporations or big companies are becoming a thing of past very, very quickly. You know, we've become more oriented to the self-business selves. When you oversaturate the market in any area, you cause the death of many opportunities and businesses. It's harder and harder to find a niche. You know, I applaud you. This that you have is something that you've made a niche out of. It's something you've been doing. Many people don't know your skills in writing behind the field for a number of years, longer than I've even known you. But you've established an opportunity. This is a venue of journalism that we didn't fathom even 7 years ago. So we've got to really think of how to engage them. We've got to show opportunities. We've got to create some more. And we have to go back to the intuition and intuitiveness. I think now in terms of historic journalism, writing your story, writing what makes you who you are, and teaching how it helps someone else to go forward today. You know, I admire Dr. Henry Louis Gates Jr. for what he has done. He's created that with his new series on the African Americans, the series that he took with Tracing Your Roots. Those are forms of journalistic prose that we never considered, and that they brought themselves forth because someone had that itch, had that initiative. I want to make a difference. I want to do something different.
It pays to dare.
Yes.
And dare to be different, and dare to travel uncharted territories and so on.
Yes.
And thanks for the compliment, by the way. I wanna. You mentioned your mom and the impact she had on her. You mentioned Beverly Jones, and those are a few women, your sister, and so on. But I want to ask you this in a general context. Who are some women that you first admired as a child, but and some who you still admire today?
Oh my goodness. I admired to think about that. I have to put on my American cap
Uh-huh.
because growing up in Guyana, the term role model is not something that I knew. It wasn't something that existed. I knew I respected women that I saw working, but I don't recall it being a role model per se that this is who I'm going to pattern my life after. You know, my aunt, my late aunt, my dad's eldest sister, Shirley Barnwell, I really was impacted by her. Mostly because of the life experiences she shared with me and taught me. You know, I admired my mom. I was fascinated by her ability. My mom's a very skillful seamstress. I was fascinated by her ability to just look at you to cut material and sew something, and it's perfect. You know, I admired I admired many family members. I admired people like you know some of the nuns that taught me. There was also some of the teachers I had. A Mrs. Wilson, a math teacher at South Georgetown. I admired her, and I made contact with her maybe about 3 years ago. She has since left Guyana. She's teaching in Barbados, and it was such a good feeling that she did remember me because she came into my life when my mom had left to join my dad. You know, I admired also my friend's mom, Mrs. Chowbey. Um, she made sure that I was involved in a number of things. That was my exposure to the Hindu culture in Guyana. You know, when my grandmother needed to have needed some time, she would say, send her around the corner because I was close with her daughter. We were friends, Lakshmi and I. And those are the women that I looked at. Today, some of the women that I've admired in the last several years have been women like Rosalind McClymonds, the executive editor of the network journal, Lorna Welshman Neblett, whom I've had the pleasure of working with on a number of nonprofit organizations, Sybil Chester, who's done an awful lot in the community here, in the Guyanese community and abroad. You know, uh, Lynette Huggins, someone that I've worked with for 25 years and who stepped into a role after retiring, taking on a business after her husband falls ill. She left to retire and now she's to take on a business and go right back to work. And she's done it with such aplomb and such support.
You know, I just now I couldn't help thinking about the impact social media has made in our lives, and I think of this when you mentioned you and your sisters and how much you've accomplished and your parents not having fathomed this, and none of us fathomed social media at all. None of us could fathom technology without the advent of technology. This CWS would not have been possible, and I'm eternally grateful. And you've spoken about how it transformed journalism. But I want to ask you this, though. We in that era, um, how do you think, when I think of social media, I think of strands of communication. And I use that as a metaphor um, to describe how I see social media, the various strands are woven or into a new fabric of our ethos anywhere in the world, be it America or Guyana, wherever. What is the impact you think it has on our behavior as a people?
Oh, there's always positive and negative. It's positive in that a venue like Facebook has given us the ability to connect with people we may have lost touch with. It's also given us the opportunity to expose the hidden sides of ourselves that would otherwise stay hidden or be only shared with a minimum few. It's given us a freedom to the extent that we forget there should be integrity. And the concept that it's shared worldwide still does not impact a lot of people. You know, in the past, you can say something and walk away, it could be forgotten. You could write something and you can erase it. You post it on social media, it's forever there. Delete or not, it's infinitely there and can be picked up by any satellite and formulated and shared again. It does not die. The vastness of that has yet to hit a majority of people. And that's the sad part about the media. I've enjoyed connecting with people I haven't seen or heard from in years. I've connected with fellow classmates from South Georgetown more than 40 years ago. You know, I've connected with classmates from Tutorial. I've connected with people from St. Mary's. I've connected with people even here and friends who have moved all over the world. That's fantastic. I enjoy that. I can still speak with friends from primary school at St. Mary's today, which never would have been possible had these venues not arrived, you know.
So digitization has given us a form of immortality in a sense.
It has. And not necessarily in a good sense.
Right. Um, mentoring again. How has your training and experience distinguish you from other mentors, you believe? Is that putting you on the spot in a way?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
You know I'm not good at.
Yes. Okay. All right.
I think the difference would be, as I said before, I don't just do the canned mentorship. I don't just sit with you one day, 1 hour out of a week. You become a part of my life. I become a part of your life. My husband becomes a part of your life.
What is the one story or stories you would like to write?
I wouldn't say my biography, but I would say snippets of times in my life that that made an impact or made a difference, that I can look back now and say, okay, this is what I learned from that, and this is where I grew from that.
Young people again, and I hope that quite a few of them are listening and paying attention to this. With all your years of experience mentoring young people, and I'm going to step out on a limb here, assuming that this thread exists. What is the common thread, or to what, I rather ask, is the common thread of indifference or ignorance? What is it you find a lot of them are indifferent to, and a lot of them are ignorant of?
The value of respect, self-respect, and respect for elders. There is quite a big ignorance on the values of what respect is and why it's necessary. That's very troubling to me.
What was the most challenging, talking about troubling, what is the most challenging or painful decision you've ever made?
Boy, I'm a woman. We make several painful, challenging decisions at one point or another.
I'm going to try not to forget this tonight.
Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh.
Let's try.
Leaving a situation
Uh,
for the benefit of peace of
okay.
mind.
Okay. Okay. And what is one thing about you that most people do not know and would surprise them?
Oh my gosh. Where's my husband when I need him? One thing that would surprise them. I don't think a lot of people really know just how much of mentoring I do, and I don't think they know that I'm a closet home decorator. I have like themes for the rooms in my house.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yes, I go through phases, and I change things around, One of my husband's aunt told him at one time, "You better watch out. You'll walk in one day and it won't be your house anymore."
Oh gosh. Oh my gosh. Do you have a favorite hobby, and if so, what is it?
Oh my goodness. My favorite hobby has and always will be reading.
Reading.
Yes. When my husband bought me my Kindle, he expressly bought it so that I would no longer pack books up in the house.
That's a good idea. That's a smart man. That's a good idea.
Yes, he surprised me. And yes, at any given moment, I may have about 8 to 12 books on my Kindle downloaded, and I can read them out in a few days.
Oh my gosh.
I have a few hobbies, but reading has always been my favorite. I like cooking, traveling. I like decorating.
We talk about young people, and I can't, whenever I think of young people, I can't help thinking about sagging. What do you tell your young male mentees about sagging?
Oh my gosh.
Those who sag, right?
Oh, I try to impress upon them first impressions. I try to impress upon them the pride in being young men and what's seen when they show up like that. It's a difficult thing, even with our sons. They're adults now. It's not as easy to say or to tell them
They've
what to
grown
do.
up.
Yes, they've grown
Or they have
up.
aged, rather.
Yes. And you make your children, you don't make their minds, but you can only hope to impress upon them and have what you've taught them stay with them and return to them as they grow older.
What traditions? You touched on this a bit, but give us another one. Traditions you grew up with that contributed or to who you are today.
Sunday meals,
Oh, okay.
Christmas morning, Boxing Day, the pepper pot and bread.
Did you have to mention pepper pot? Okay.
I didn't say garlic pork. Those things, habitually over the years, my sisters and I see our parents every weekend. It's changed from time to time, but we're in touch with our parents consistently. My younger sister, she lives upstairs, so she's in the house with my parents. For me, for us, that's important. They ground us. They give us a sense of stability and where we're heading, what we'd like with our own families. They've never said you owe us. They've never said you must do for us. They've never asked us for anything. We do because innately it's who we are. And it's what we want to do. So those are some of the things and traditions.
Tradition.
I appreciate.
Let's take a break.
Sure.
We are back with the lovely Allison Skeete. In the chat room, Mike asked, "What do you enjoy most about mentoring?"
The opportunity to show something different to a student who may never have had a mentor and had no idea what to expect or what they're going to learn. To see their faces when they get something or they realize this person really is here for me to help me through this. That's what I enjoy.
You've mentored a lot of young women.
Yes.
You yourself is a very strong and courageous woman. Um, and I'm saying all this to preface this question. History teaches us that when women are in positions of power, everyone benefits and their communities prosper. What are your thoughts on this?
I would have to say The Art of War. Sun Tzu. It's one of my favorite books. That book was written in what century? Okay, and he makes a point. Women are strategic thinkers,
Yeah.
whether it's behind the art of war or behind the art of community. That's the benefit. We see the growth, we see where it's going to lead, we see where it's going to take them. Even if we don't see it immediately, we know it will come back. So,
Last night I asked our guests about the Caribbean and the idea, because some friends and I, usually discuss this, the idea of women heads of state dominating the political theater in the Caribbean, and how much we believe that would influence real growth, real stability. But in all fairness, and I mean in reality, there has to be a cultural and political shift in paradigm, or paradigm shift rather, to make this happen. But I that's close to my heart. I personally believe that. I think there's a time, and I believe in the yin and yang, and I think that the male energy has dominated that region for quite some time. And it's time for some sort of shift. What are your thoughts about that?
I agree. I don't disagree. When you think back when Walter Mondale ran for president here and named Geraldine Ferraro as his running mate, we had to read quips in the New York Times. Oh, opponents are saying we'll be subject to Jerry's hot flashes in making some kind of a major decision. That was an insult. It was uncalled for. Now today we're standing on the precipice of possibly Hillary Rodham Clinton being the first female president of the United States. Women like Portia Simpson Miller, who is now back in a second term, has an opportunity to do more. We have to get past. The Caribbean is still a very male dominated thinking venue and diaspora. And we have to stop saying woman can't do this. Because while you men are out there taking care of this, we are doing more, running the home and running everything else. And we don't do that without a balance. I'm not saying that I'm totally a feminist, but I do believe the opportunity to think outside of the box and to expand the venues of thinking is done a bit more readily by women without necessarily taking away from the male role. I think men fear the loss of their role and their power if women are at the helm, and that's not necessarily so. Women still tend to think, okay, everyone's got a role and a place. But men are more concerned with losing their power if their position shifts.
Hypothetical. You're sworn in president of, let's say, Guyana. What are, let's say, the first three things you will do?
Education.
Uh-huh.
Okay. cleanliness. The once former garden city of South America is less than a garden now. Common manners and respect, the infrastructure of the elders, their knowledge, their traditions, their cultures, first and foremost, must be taught to bring us back from where we've come. Sadly, Guyana today is far more regressed than Guyana in the 1970s. It's disheartening to me to go home now in the 21st century and I'm faced with fetching water to bathe. That when I left in the 1970s, that was not an issue, not in Georgetown, not in many of the places that we knew. To see animals walking in the Rheinvelds, the Meadowbrook Gardens, didn't see that then. The loss of common decency is very, very painful. I loved that my grandmother lived with us. We had her in our lives. Now, it's become like some other places. You throw away your elderly and your babies. To see the homeless children, to see the ignorance, the abuse. It's very, very disheartening from a place that reverberates with so much heart and soul. Expats are want to make a change, but it's very difficult because you're met with rejection by a people who don't even know the history you were taught in the very same country they're living in. It's embarrassing to hear people say, I didn't know Guyana had this or Guyana had that, when we prided ourselves on our geographical history, on our world history. We were taught international studies. We were taught with pride. To hear someone from Guyana speaking and I can't repeat what they're saying, or I can't say I understand it. We were taught you can speak that way at home, but once you're outside, you speak properly. You put your tongue between your teeth, you say your T's and H's, and you are respectful. To hear the colloquial now, it reverberates on the ears. I'm not saying I don't like it. It's a part of our culture. It's a part of who we are. It's a part of the process. But take it to a different level when you're outside. We were always taught, represent yourself properly. Represent your family properly. You may be poor, but you must be mannerly.
When are you most happy?
As an empty nester now? You know, when I'm spending time with my husband, now that it's just us, we get to spend so much more time together. I look forward to that. It's just such a relief. At the end of the day, I'm on my way home and we meet at the train. It's like, you know, it's relaxed. It's happy. We do lots of getaway weekends. We do date nights, and we just go and relax and just. I say, you know, is this selfish? I'm just happy it's just us. I don't want to have anyone around. Where we live, we have the opportunity to do dinner and a movie in the same place. The movie theater is the restaurant, so you have your menu, you choose your dinner, and you sit and you watch the movie, and there are recliner seats.
I heard about that.
Yeah, so we have that opportunity. He said, do you want me to fall asleep? No, I just want you to relax. But to just relax, watch a movie, not have to worry about anything else. Those moments, I'm really happy, and I think that comes with age also. You know, the simple
Looking
things.
back, and what will you change about your education or your approach to life, or would you change anything?
The only thing I would change with my education is coming here. My parents weren't aware of how the system works, so it took a little time for me to move forward. I would go back and change that because it put me behind because you were placed by age, not by ability, and they were not aware that you could go into the officials and have tests taken to make the changes that I would change. But I would not change the things I've learned, the things that I've studied. I'd probably add to what I've done because I continue to take courses. I take continuing education courses all of the time because I'm always interested in something else, and I'm a nuisance fact fanatic. So I find things that may be nonsensical to others, I find a place for them and I use them. That may be something that people don't know about me. I'm a nuisance fact fanatic.
And what advice do you have for young people who are interested in journalism?
Go for it. Talk to the people, talk to the names that you see. Check out the websites for the National Association of Black Journalists. You'll be surprised to see what you learn there. There are student memberships. There are memberships you can apply for. You can even get in on some of the things. They do training sessions. They do workshops. Talk to someone. Look for something. You see a name somewhere you don't know or you see a face with it. Try researching that person. Find out. Go check different universities. See what they may offer. You don't know what's going to come up. You never know. Go for it. Don't let the art die.
What are you most proud of?
That's a hard question.
Okay.
There isn't just one thing. I'm proud to be the mentor that I've been. I'm proud to be the mother that I've been. I'm proud to be the wife that I am. I'm proud to be the daughter I am. I'm proud to be the sister that I am. I hope my sisters agree with me. That's not an easy question.
I understand. I understand. And it's only, if it is difficult, then it's only one difficult one, right? You agree? I usually ask this question: is there anything you would rather forget? But last night I chose to switch it up, and I'm going to continue the trend with you. Is there anything that you really wouldn't want you wouldn't want to forget? Anything in your life?
Yeah, there is. Do you want me to tell you?
Yes, yes. I like that. I like that.
The thing I wouldn't want to forget is my husband telling me that he knew I would be his wife. Because that was the furthest thing from my mind.
Wow.
He was my friend. I was not looking for anything more. But he never told me. He never told me until after we were married Because he realized if he had told me, I probably would have run for the hills.
You would have run for the hills.
Yes. He tempers me. I am much more extroverted than he is. And I need that tempering. And he tempers me. And I would have rejected that because he's a much more calm person than I am. Yes.
Fire tends to avoid water in a way. So I understand.
Yes.
Finish this sentence. I look forward to Sunday evening to
Sunday meal, Sunday dinner. That's my thing. That's our thing.
and what are you most thankful for?
Life today, being where I am, that I can get up and go, that my parents are still with us, my sisters, and our children. They're all safe. They're all productive young adults.
Is religion or spirituality, or both, a part of your life, an integral part of your life?
Definitely, most definitely. My husband and I, we actually worked in a number of the same ministries at our church, and we have our daily practices. We do pray together daily. We do scripture readings. We are active in church. It definitely is an integral part of our lives. We grew up with the church. It's a conscious decision. I do not believe we're here for no reason, and I do believe.
I have to ask you a question about Family Renaissance, right? And I'm going to ask you it in two parts in the interest of time. How long have you been associated with Family Renaissance? And what makes Family Renaissance unique, in your opinion?
I've been affiliated with Family Renaissance about 10 years or so, thanks to my classmate, Glenda Pereira. She's been a guest on your show. She got me involved with Lorraine Nutkirk, another of our classmates, who is the director of Family Renaissance. The program has been around, Family Renaissance has been around more than 30 years, or about 30 years, and they offer services within the community to immigrant parents and parents otherwise, with opportunities for seminars, mentorship, programs for their kids. They feature programs like Bright Young Minds, which train students from elementary right on up on owning and running their own businesses. I've been a part of the group helping to expose them in the media. I've been a part of their Rites of Passage program, which is based on Ghanaian principles of a young man and a young woman coming into adulthood. They take some of the students to Ghana in the summer. They run programs that also help parents who may have difficulty assimilating here to life in America, and help them to work on dealing with their children who are also assimilating here. It's a very important program, and it's still little known because they don't do a big blast of publicity, but they've been around a long time. They're headed by Dr. John McQueen, who is a psychologist. He's also an adjunct professor at Medgar Evers, and a very, very, very knowledgeable man on the psyche of our people and how to motivate us and get results from us. They've been very successful in a number of their students. In fact, one of their students is someone who received a community youth award from the Ghana Cultural Association this past summer for the work that she has done, and she achieved 2 dual degrees in college. Her name is Orissa Denny, and it's ironic I got to know about her because her aunt asked me to look at her resume and revamp it for her. And she's one of the I did not know at the time until I read it. It's one of the young women that I was familiar with from Family Renaissance.
Wow, that's a great story.
Yes.
If you could go back in time, what would you tell that 15-year-old Allison?
Oh, there's more to life than you think. There's more to life than you think. 15-year-old Allison was insecure except in school. 15-year-old Allison became the first girl on her high school swim team.
Is that so? Mm-hmm. See, that's another thing I didn't know about you. Mm-hmm. Wow. I'm
the only girl that has a statue, that has a trophy with a male on the top of it. All of the girls after me have girls.
I'm not even going to ask about that.
They weren't prepared for me, that's all.
They weren't, right? And this is the last but not least, but this is a question I ask all my guests. You probably know it by now. What makes you laugh out loud?
My husband and his silly jokes. Oh, he has a sense of humor that only he can make me laugh at certain things that I would otherwise just think is too nonsensical to even entertain.
Allison, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Time flies when you're having fun. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate this.
Thank you for having me, and good luck for the rest of the year.
You're welcome, and thanks a lot.
Arrowhead. I don't think you heard me. I said Arrowhead. I love my golden arrowhead. My. All she see my